Welcome to the Sweet Science of Fighting podcast. Today we have Owen Scully. Welcome, Owen.
Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you coming on and reaching out. And I think a good place to start for this is let's touch on some of your background, your history within strength conditioning, and then what kind of brought you to Thailand and specifically to Bangtao Muay Thai, and what's happening there that's kind of, I guess, piqued your interest to move across the world.
So I got interested in strength and conditioning actually through a friend of mine, through a childhood friendship. He was always dragging me to the gym with him, and he was a bit of a nerd about it, and actually really got me interested in S&C. So I ended up studying at university over in England, rugby boy. So I was always playing rugby, and outside of being injured, I was always quite interested in the rehab and just getting strong for rugby. I was very, very distracted at university as well, with partying and just being a rugby lad sort of thing too. But then I ended up in Australia, playing for a decent club out there. I originally went out to just on a rugby contract just to play rugby, do a little bit of farm work here and there. Just giving you like the condensed version of this because this is a very long story. But I ended up getting an injury, which meant that I had to stop playing rugby. So the club I was with at the time helped me pick up some work with the Waratahs. I was under Jordan Troster at the time. I don't know if you remember him. And he's at the Las Vegas Knights now. And he was one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And then from there, I was in that environment, just so inspired, being around all these, wallabies and things like that. And I ended up going off then to do another master's because I'd started a master's in S&C at the time, but I just needed more. I didn't have enough of a grasp. I had to retire from a concussion. So the therapist I was working with, she said that you'd be better off going back and studying something. So I chose exercise physiology. Went to Melbourne, was at the Melbourne Rebels. And then I ended up in Singapore. A personal trainer at a gym, which was awesome experience because I actually hadn't really done much I'd done a little bit of general population work, but I actually really enjoyed being in that environment because it was like an introduction to sort of working with high net worth type of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was also I was the head coach of a rugby club there at the same time. And I did 3 years there, all throughout the COVID thing. The challenges with the rugby team was that I had to try and keep the club together during really signed the dotted line to this club, and then the next week, we're in lockdown. You have to keep all the memberships sort of engaged in the club. I was like, what? Never done this before. And then after 3 years in Singapore, I kind of had a couple of different roles in Singapore. I was an elite personal trainer in that in one of the companies, and then I was the head of education in another company. And I decided that I just had enough of course, I was kind of looking around, and then I got reached out to by a company in Saudi Arabia. I went and spent a couple of years in Saudi Arabia, which is a great experience. Actually, I loved every minute there, and a lot of people raise their eyebrows when they hear me say that because the Western media has kind of thrown that place under the bus with like, they're sports washing, they've got too much oil and gas money, but it was actually cool because I've never really met Saudi Arabians before, and they're probably the nicest of any country I've lived in. I haven't lived in New Zealand, by the way. But of every country I've lived in, they were the way they treated me was so nice. And like, I came out here to Thailand on a vacation last year. I've always had a keen interest in jiu-jitsu and MMA, even more so than rugby, to be quite honest. I'd watch MMA way more than rugby, even when I was playing rugby. And on Woody a little bit, we went to a couple of UFC events in a few years ago, and Woody's my boss. He's the head of strength and conditioning here at Bangtao. And then when we caught up last year, we're talking about building like an education sort of platform with Bangtao, like a certification, and maybe like being like a home of education for the Southeast Asian hub. Pardon me. Off back to Saudi and kind of forgot about it a little bit, and I think he had kind of had too. And then he was just like one day, I think February, was just kind of like he posted something on Instagram, and I replied to it like I'm coming out to work out there, and then back and forwards, then here I am now. Great experience so far. I've loved it. And we've got some big things in the pipeline with excuse me, dry throat. Some really big things coming in the pipeline, which kind of begins this week. We've got Anderson Silva coming out to do a seminar, which is pretty cool. Was a massive Anderson Silva fan back in the day, so it's kind of cool that he's coming out here to teach a seminar. Pardon me, mate.
You're good.
So yeah, and then in 2025, we're gonna roll out some educational events, purely at strength and conditioning. We've
Awesome.
been kind of working hard on that at the moment.
Is Bangtao one of the only gyms that have fully fledged strength conditioning embedded in the gym, or is that universal around Thailand?
Thailand, so the boys that started Bangtao all worked at Tiger. And they they branched out by themselves, as you do when you outgrow a place. You want to go off and start your own thing. And in this case, the boys wanted to do it together as a group of friends. And Woody was the head of strength and conditioning in Tiger, and they had a really big S&C area there. So he kind of took what he wanted and made it its own at Bangtao. So it's starting to get a bit more common though, the S&C, the MMA gyms. I know one of the grappling clubs here is having a nightmare here. I know one of the grappling gyms has also had a kit out of an S&C area.
Interesting. Okay. So when we're talking strength conditioning in these, I guess, different Thai gyms, probably the perception from the outside is, I think what you see, like stuff on YouTube, it's like kind of like strength conditioning classes, right? Almost like the general population tourists come in, and maybe even fighters just do a random strength conditioning class together, versus say maybe an integrated approach where you're working with specific fighters for their fights, one-on-one, etc. So how does it look for you guys? Is it a bit of both? Does one pay the bills and the other one you're working with fighters and preparing them for fights? I'll leave that to you.
We have group classes every day. We have a conditioning class early in the morning, 2 conditioning classes early in the morning, a 7:30 a.m. or 9 a.m. Then we have a study class, a kettlebells class, and then the strength and conditioning class, which, to be fair, is the strength and like all these classes are kind of tailored towards like anyone, and because we have a lot of tourists coming in, and we do have some of the fighters come to the classes. The guys that probably aren't in camp will come to the classes and sort of just to stay in shape. And the class, so we kind of tailor it. Then we tell them what they have to be doing in rep wise compared to Karen from the medical center sort of thing. And then separately, we'll work with the fighters who are in camp sort of thing. So recently we've had a Zhang Wei Li in at the moment doing camp with Woody. He's her main strength and conditioning coach. She sometimes comes to the fitness classes too. I worked with Abdullah Al-Khatani and Hassan Al-Saif, who just fought the weekend on PFL. which is really cool experience because I actually met them in Saudi, and when I told them I was moving out here, they were like, "All right, well then we will as well." So got a great relationship with them both, and they both won on the weekend, which was great. And then so we kind of have it like at least separate, depending on who's in camp and things like that too, and who's in town too, because a lot of these guys are traveling all the time and things like that. So
how's the approach? Well, how's the setup with the actual technical coaches as well? Because at the moment, obviously, you're talking about strength conditioning classes, which, as you mentioned, are for everyone, so they're isolated from, I guess, what else is going on. So with these fighters, is there a lot of collaboration with what's happening in their technical and skills training? How does that all come together?
So we kind of like Woody, myself, Brad, Frank, and George kind of will keep in sort of communication on based on who we're working with. Like with Abdallah, Hickman was his main sort of head MMA coach, if you can call Frank that. Frank's actually our head of wrestling, but he'll take the lead on one of the fighters, and then I'll maintain communication based on like they're doing, technical sessions they're going through, and then we kind of manage their loading around that. I try to just with the loading, I just try to keep the technical stuff, as every S&C would do. The technical stuff's the main bread and butter, and then we sort of plug the gaps with the S&C stuff based on how tired he is on the day. Some, kind of thing. Like the thing is, Abdullah's different to anyone I've coached before because he has the more is better mentality, and if he hears this, he'll laugh at it because we spoke about it so many times. He just loves to he's wanting to work so hard to get what he feels he deserves, sort of thing in life. It was just kind of like for him trying to plug the gaps was like every gap in his calendar was just full of stuff that he wanted to do. So he's a bit of an outlier, but yeah. So we do the main thing for us is just build it out as a team at the camp, staying in communication, and then having to sort of auto-regulate as we get towards the pointy end too. So
do you want to lay out maybe what maybe a typical training week looks like, and then we can go into some of the more nuts and bolts, I think, because that will provide some good context around what it is you're doing and why.
Pardon me. Can't clear my throat here. I'll just use Abdullah as an example. Like he would do either Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu in the morning, and then the 4 p.m. class, which is like for all of the MMA athletes, which would mostly be wrestling, wall wrestling, much just like the 4 p.m. class is basically team training. So it's like it'll change weeks as the week goes on. So Monday is literally wrestling, Tuesday's sparring, Wednesday's grappling for MMA, and Thursday's wall wrestling again, I believe, and then Friday's sparring again. So we spar twice a week. In fight camp, then on a Saturday morning they'll do like a fight sim, and then as like 4 weeks out they'll go like I think it starts with 2 rounds of fight sim, then the following week is 3, the following week after that's 4 rounds based on how many rounds of fighting in their event. And then from an S&C perspective, I tried to get them in early morning, like 7 a.m. But for some of them that I've worked with so far here, it's very, very difficult. So you kind of have to plug the gap, like 11 a.m. kind of thing. They've done their Muay Thai or their Jiu-Jitsu, and then they want to do their S&C. But I tried to just do like 2 sessions per week of S&C, getting exposure to sort of heavier loads twice a week kind of thing. And we just try to time it. I tried to have it as like on their like the morning of the sparring days, because then it's like they can have 2 high days a week, and I think it's kind of like the sweet spot. And then we kind of on a Saturday afternoon, some of the guys they like to go for a long steady state sort of run, but steady state's hard here because of the heat and humidity. So, and none of these guys are like, everyone here is chronically dehydrated too. So that definitely doesn't stay in zone 2 for sure.
Yeah. Would you say each day then, because you mentioned your 2 higher days, those 2 sparring days, I think it was Wednesday and Friday. So with the afternoon MMAs, would you say that, say, the morning technical stuff is kind of like the lower end technical work, and those MMA trainings can get pretty intense as well? So you almost have a hard afternoon most days?
I think so,
Yeah.
but like I think with the guys, like they're especially our sponsor fighters and the UFC guys and PFL guys that come through, I think they kind of know how their body's feeling and how to pull back a little bit too.
Gotcha.
With some guys, they're like, they think it's let's just go balls to the wall every single session that we can. I think with the guys who are a bit more long in the tooth in the game of, they are a bit more wiser to like how to manage their body, and then how to manage their intensities too. And I guess like Frank and George, Alex, even Connor, our head boxing coach, they all kind of will have an input like, you're looking tired today, so just if we spar at the end, just do 2 rounds kind of thing. Like they are really, really emotionally intelligent, to be quite honest. The boys that are, all the MMA and the striking, very emotionally intelligent guys for a group of blokes put together. It's they're very good at like telling people when to push and when to pull back. So
Nice. And then let's jump into your strength conditioning session. So you have your 2 mornings on the sparring days. What do those typically look like? Obviously, it's going to change depending on the fighter and stuff, but even just a very general, or even a little case study on one of the fighters you have.
I use there's a guy I coach called Flash Daddy. It's not his real name, but that's his name. So with Flash, he's a kickboxer. He's like a Queensbury boxer. He's done a lot of street fighting over the years. Now he's actually a professional boxer. Interesting guy. Honestly, one of the nicest guys I've met as well. But so with him, typically on like, say for example, Tuesday morning, I'll get him in to do some. We'll start off typically with just like a bit of movement prep. I like using the exo style of movement prep. And then we'll.
Do you want to maybe just run through that with for the audience, the exo style?
Sure. So basically, just like something very dynamic. I get like the knee pulls, progressive through to like high knee skips, some banded stuff, and then some potentiation stuff like hops, jumps, pogos, these type of things. And then I love using when I progress after the warm up. I like to use the medicine balls a lot. I don't like doing any medicine balls and jumping quite a lot with these guys. I would use quite frequently. So I've kind of came up with a couple of easy circuits for the guys to do, just with comprising of like 4 exercises, like isometric shot put, hold against the wall, step back, shot put, throw against the wall, 5 reps kind of thing as fast as I can. A side shuffle, hop to rotational toss at the wall, these type of things. I don't try to teach them too many new things, because I also know that their brain's trying to learn new information in the MMA sessions too. I try to just keep the same sort of stuff and just sort of progress it with time or sets or reps, or just like make them just maybe throw it much harder than they have been, kind of thing. And then we'll go into like I sort of typically plan my strength component as just full body because it just makes more sense. I can split the week up much better that way. So I'll just do like a trap bar deadlift, a dumbbell bench press, and then I'll go into like a tricep typically of like, upper lower core kind of get, and I'll do the conditioning kind of at the end. Or if they're fatigued, I can do the condition a bit separate. Like after they do their MMA training, they can come back and do their conditioning component. I think so. They're not too fatigued going into the MMA session too. I think so. I keep it like basic because I want to try to keep the S&C session to like an hour max. If I can get them in and out within 45, 50 minutes, perfect, because they can go home and sort of rest a bit better. There's times where I've had to chop stuff out of the session on the fly too, just based on how the guys are. Like, they're in the last 2 weeks camp, 2-3 weeks of camp, and they may be a bit fatigued with the workload, and then it's just kind of like a conversation of like, look, mate, just go home and have a rest. You look exhausted. And we just do the main bits, just the 2 main sort of core lifts, the medicine ball stuff, the warm up, and then it's don't worry about this accessory stuff. Just head home, mate. Okay.
Is there? I've been through that a lot with various athletes having to change programs on the fly. Never know when guys come in just absolutely fucking wrecked. But do you do any form of testing or monitoring to potentially influence maybe what goes into their program or changes to their program in the coming weeks from that?
I'll do like a movement assessment at the start, and I kind of a test and battery kind of like I copied what they do at the PI, but it's just so hard to manage because the conditions that the guys train at here is completely different to the States. It's different to anywhere because the weather conditions here are so extreme. So there is a lot of auto regulation here more than anywhere else I've worked. But yeah, to answer your question, I have a testing battery. In the new year, once we have a bunch of testing stuff arriving next year that we're gonna sort of gather more data, start collaborating with a couple of companies, with data sharing and things like that through with our athletes. But at the moment, I just keep it so basic. I get them to jump, and chalk on the wall as they jump. A 3-rep max trap bar deadlift, 6-rep chin up, things like that. There's one thing I learned at OPEX as well that was I thought was quite useful of like, doing max calories on an assault bike for 10 minutes. It's just kind of like, it's more of a psychological test, I think, and it's very low impact too, even though it's the same, I guess, same cross-sectional pattern of running, but except you're not having the impact of the ground or the road. But that because it's kind of like towards the end of the camp, I can like retest that and just really push them hard. And then once they beat it, and they always do, just it's kind of like that satisfaction, like, you get a little bit more buy-in too, sort of thing. So
yeah.
But at the moment, currently, we don't have a lot of testing apparatus. We just try to keep it as lean as possible, and then control just some of the main variables of the strength, the power output, and mainly fatigue management is probably. I got a good relationship with Whoop. When I was working in Saudi, I managed to get Whoop into the company I was working for, and then we helped them roll it out across the Middle East. And it's kind of like a thank you. When I moved to Thailand, they sent me like 30 pieces of the band.
Oh, wow.
I've actually got all our sponsor team in a group chat, and we're all talking trash to each other about our whoop spots. So I think everyone's like, not everyone, but like a lot of people, the jury is still out with this kind of technology, but better than not having anything to go off of, in terms of like seeing how their body's recovering from training loads, their sleep, who's been up all night, playing Fortnite or that, that kind of shit, or even in the massage parlors in Patong. So it's really, I really like the whoop. As far as like,
you see the heart rate spike at 2 a.m. Is that the problem there?
you know, it's something, hey. As far as like monitoring goes, this is probably as close as that we're getting to it right now. But we do have plans in the future at Bangtao to rule out some really good testing apparatus and
what have you got coming in? Or the secret?
We're in talks with a couple of companies to bring in some like force plates and
nice.
Some VBT apparatus as well. The units. Have you heard of Output Sports? We're maybe going to get one of those.
I think so. I think I've been getting Facebook ads for them.
You will be now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been a bunch of different stuff and speaking with a few different companies about getting some stuff in to, I guess, just start making our product a lot better and a bit more advanced than anyone on the island, anyone in the world. Like, we want to have UFC Performance Institute as our main competitor, kind of thing. But no, it's quite exciting. There's a lot of cool things coming in the year for what we're wanting to do.
Nice. Well, within that strength program, so you mentioned, you stick with a lot of the basic movements to keep them similar, just so they're not having to think a lot about what they're doing. So you do like minimal jumps and then to the strength work. Do you ever do anything kind of in between that lower load, higher velocity work of throws and jumps and that higher load, low velocity strength work? So anything like different loaded jumps or maybe Olympic lifts or anything like that? Does that kind of fit in the program?
Yeah, like it just really depends on the person. If someone's done snatches or cleans and jerks before, and they're really good at it, because the thing is, I have never able to do any Olympic weightlifting in my lifetime because my body is just not cut out for it, number one, and it's such a skill, and like there's so much time dedicated to learning the skill of snatching and cleaning. I would much rather getting them through a ball overhead and have the same sort of adaptation, I think, triple extension, than spending hours with them showing them how to fling a barbell over their head. And I love watching it and stuff, but it's so tedious. I watched the guy I work with in Saudi Arabia. He's really big into Olympic weightlifting, and like he was coaching this girl who's going to compete in the Saudi Games. So in the Saudi Games, you have the opportunity to win $1 million riyals.
What's that in dollars?
It's like 450,000 US.
Okay.
just for putting a barbell over your head.
That's crazy.
It's mad, mate. It's crazy money. So I just sat and watched Todd training this Brazilian chick, one of our good friends, and the detail, just like, oh, there's like a millimeter here. He's got these, graphs from this app on his phone showing him everything, and he's like, you need to do more of this, need to do more of that, and I want to spend time with a MMA athlete, teaching them how to do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Even if I did know how to, I wouldn't want to, because the main thing is the MMA, and that's where all the intel that they should be downloading into their brains. That's where that should be coming from. Like, that's the skills they should be focusing on. The stuff that they're learning in the gym it should be so basic that like an infant can do it. Because like to be fair, these guys get punched in the head for a living. A lot of them are smart, but then there's a lot of them that aren't too. So, and then when they hear this, I'm gonna be public enemy number one at work.
Yeah,
Um,
you're going to be the next sparring partner.
But it's just kind of like the reason why I keep it so basic is because like the chicks, man, they have worked time and time again. So I just try to, I think as well as I've gotten older, my exercise vocabulary seems to be getting smaller and smaller as well, because it's just, I don't want to confuse anyone. More myself.
How much does specificity or transfer play a role in just your overall philosophy? Because currently we've talked a lot of, we just call them like general exercises, right? Deadlift, bench, pulls, etc. Is there a role for specificity within your philosophy and training program? Is that something you ever start to implement, or is it kind of like, hey, we're sticking with these are going to make you stronger, they're going to make you better on the mats because you're doing so much MMA anyway?
I think it kind of just depends as well, mate. That's the worst answer ever. It depends. But it just depends on many factors, kind of thing. If I'm working with someone who's, I guess, got like a high risk, high reward type of fight coming up, I'd probably say there would be more to gain from them, adding some specific things into their program. But like on a large, the main role of the strength and conditioning coach should just be to get them strong and conditioned, rather than to like learn how to X, Y, Z so much that it's gonna improve their hip toss from the cage kind of thing. Get the bands attached to the cage, so I think to get them a full Joel Seedman style.
Oh, no, you can't say that name on this podcast.
Sorry.
I'm gonna have to beep it out.
But it's like I think as far as I would go with specificity is like the sort of medicine ball stuff, really. If there's really anything sort of
so underutilized in, I swear, all combat sports. I don't know why.
Yeah. I absolutely love them, mate. Yeah, I love the dead balls, especially like even the loaded carries with getting them, cable grip and carrying like the heavy ones, like like the big sandbags as well. I think it's type of things as well are very, very good to use. Even everyone's doing farmers carries kind of things, like the old school type of strength training type of stuff is starting to make a bit of a comeback. I think the last 5, 6, 7 years. But yeah, so as I absolutely love using the medicine ball stuff because it just purely because it works.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well.
Well, is that like even if the guys, if they're short on time, they've got sparring coming up, I'll get them to go do the like a little med ball circuit just before they go into sparring, just for that potentiation. Make shadow box for like a minute with the dumbbells in their hands, so that when they go in there, on the mats, their hands feel a lot lighter. They feel a little bit sharper. It's very, very. It's. I think it's very, very cute, but like psychologically, it's definitely, I think, very effective in a positive way for them.
Let's touch on the conditioning aspect as well. You mentioned obviously you're trying to keep things to 45 minutes to 60 minutes in a session, so you're covering the strength work. So how does conditioning fit in there? What does that typically look like? And how do you decide? That's a lot of questions. How do you decide what they're going to do in that conditioning?
Kind of have like a bit of a template that I've gone off of for the last few years. So it's kind of like a mixture of, low intensity, steady state stuff. I like using I also like using the Norwegian protocol, the 4x4, 3-minute rest in between. I like using that a lot.
Is this part of that hour, or is this after the hour, a different session?
A different session that they do by themselves. Okay. That gotcha. One, yeah. Sometimes I jump in and do it with them as well, and just compete with me, even though I'm not the fittest, as fit or as strong as them, but it's kind of like I want to push them to like beat the coach kind of thing. So, but it's like I kind of base off of this template I have a lot of intervals. Try to as basic as possible again. Just there's not like the sledgehammers aren't out, not on the tires kind of thing. It's usually like on the bike, pushing and pulling a sled, the HICT type of stuff. So getting like on the watt bike and putting the tension up to its fullest, sort of the cycling through quicksand kind of thing. I like using Tabatas a lot, even reverse Tabatas. I quite like them as well.
Right, reverse Tabata would be 10 on 20 off thing? Is that what you mean? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I kind of just have like a bit of like just a little bit of a formula kind of, but like largely, mate, the conditioning components of the fighters is it changes week to week based on their workload, because at the end of the day, it's the MMA coaches dictate what their program needs the most, and our job just to support them at the end of the day, really.
So how are you deciding which of these different protocols you're going to add into a fighter's program? I mean, because you mentioned obviously it may change week to week based on what their technical load looks like. So how are you deciding then what goes when, basically?
Basically, it's I'll use Abdullah as a good example. His cardio at the start of camp wasn't like the greatest, but he was also a typical overtrainer as well. So we brought down but he wanted to go and he would do sparring for an hour and then he would go and do pads for Muay Thai. But like the Muay Thai coach to absolutely kill him,
Smash him.
So for Abdullah, it was just kind of a case of pulling back the higher intensity stuff and just getting him to focus more on rest. She literally sent him home one day. It was a Thursday afternoon. We told him come back on Monday, and this was maybe 6 weeks out from his fight. Less actually. He said to him, "Don't come back till Monday."
How many runs did he do in that time?
We told his fiance if he leaves the house, it has only got to be to the sauna and ice bath and nowhere else. We want him to rest. He was back on Monday. I've never seen a bloke whose conditioning improved so much from doing nothing. That's as much as I have in my life. So what we changed in his program was we removed a lot of the intensity type of like sprint volumes and just sort of made him do a lot more like two stuff. And then we did he did the Norwegian protocol once a week, and about 2 hours worth of zone 2 a week, split into sessions. They could fit it in. And his gas tank, he was in a 5-rounder in that fight. His gas tank was exceptional.
Did that change his perspective and his buy-in to what you're doing with that time off in particular?
I was actually me and the other Irish coach, Connor, kind of said to him, "Mate, you look terrible. You look so tired, mate. Like just in his head, just you look awful, mate. You need to go home and rest." I look awful, yeah. I feel tired actually. Yeah, now you mention it. Now, because he looked at it, mate, you can just see the eyes were hanging out of his head, and then he, me and Connor are laughing then kind of thing when he goes off. Yeah, I'll go home. Like, God, jeez, I didn't think he would listen. He's probably gonna go home and buy like a ski erg or something to bloody smash himself with. But now he did what he was asked of. Like, we don't tell them, like, they are adults at the end of the day. We only can advise what they do, but he took our advice and it paid off because he came back well rested and he had a great rest of his training camp. But it was kind of like, lesson for me was like, I could see that he was just so willing to do all this hard work. Then it's kind of like when you say to him, then like, you need to stop doing that one, do this one instead. Like, stick to the plan that we've wrote out for you. But he would just go and do it. Like, there was one night I left my keys at work and I had to come back 9 p.m. He's in the middle of the cage with the dumbbells shadow boxing. Like, mate, get up, go on. It's just like, I think after he went home and had that rest, it's like, yeah, all right, I get it now.
That's good. And I do want to go into, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but even just go into some more detail around out of camp versus, say, in camp with the strength conditioning and how that kind of progresses and changes. You mentioned, obviously, you might take some stuff out as they're doing more and more technical stuff in camp, but maybe let's see if we can get a little more granular just for the listeners of kind of maybe how it looks typically outside, then inside, let's just say like 4 to 6 weeks out kind of thing versus, there's no fight coming up.
Yeah, I think something I've been actually thinking about a lot recently, just like even with Abdullah just fighting on the weekend and Hatan fighting on the weekend, what they do next. And I think after they fight, it's a perfect time to work on hypertrophy. Some more muscle tissue, their flexibility around what they're eating, increase their calories, and let them enjoy life a little bit. I typically don't, if they're on the island, if they're here at Bangtao and they've got no fight book, it kind of is like, let's just focus getting strong, gaining some muscle to the classes rather than having a specific individualized program. Like, we have them do correctives, but that's not me that programs that. Anwar, our mobility coach, or even Peter, our kettlebells and sports scientist, typically do the correctives and rehab type of stuff with the guys. But for me, it's just kind of just come to the classes because we can control it. We can still control the intensities that you're going to work at. Like, you're still going to be way more athletic and stronger than half the people in the class. But you're going to be in a group setting, you're going to have a bit of fun and meet some people, and it's a lot better than me doing one-to-one with you because there's no need for it. It's to save them cash at the end of the day too, because you just get the same workout as they will in a group class sort of thing. So, but typically out of camp is just a lot higher volume for sort of more flexibility for them, just to sort of have a bit of fun and enjoy their life. A lot of the guys as well, they don't want to take maybe 2-3 weeks off, and then within that 2-3 weeks they'll have a fight booked. The thing straight back into the camp again. And I don't really blame them for having 2-3 weeks off, because it's like they want to maybe go back to their home country and see their family, come back out here. Like that's kind of thing what like Brendan Loughnane does. Like Woody just did his fight camp with him. I think like he treats Phuket like this is me going to work thing, and then camp he's back in Manchester with his folks. He's very close with his family, so we try. Like, it's just kind of like I don't want to like make everything too complex, because I think I've been like when I was in Melbourne, like everything was so complex when it came to the training program and things like that, and I could just see like so much confusion in the athletes' faces, and it's kind of like it doesn't really need to be that confusing, or it doesn't need to be complex until it needs to be complex. Plus, at the moment, we don't have the apparatus to sort of make more work for ourselves as well. So, but yeah, it's probably a little bit of a different take than what your normal guests have. But I think from being in the environment where we relied so much on sports science, like with using GPS units and gym aware every day, and it's kind of moving away from that, and it's been quite nice to have a bit more old school traditional sort of side to it for now, at least, until we, as I said, get some really cool stuff in the new year and start seeing really what we can measure and manage.
Yeah, well, that's what technology eventually misses, is that coaching eye. You have to develop without the technology, and then you start layering stuff in, as you mentioned. Because if you come in as a newer coach and you just have technology, you're fucked. Like, there's no way
100%.
you're learning the skills. There's no way you're learning the proper skills of coaching. Like, yeah, it's like pretty much in all my different gigs, I had every club I was at was bloody poor. Well, let's just say they're poor, or they didn't want to spend the money because they're cheap asses. It's more likely. But like, I basically nothing. I remember I had to train for European Championships, train a team of 30 or 40, a squad of 40, split them in half. So I think we had like 20 odd guys in a little shoebox, like seriously a shoebox. 1 rack, 2 bars, some dumbbells, and like a cable column for like 20 guys. So there's like no way I can program like squats because there's 2 bars on 1 rack, and so you have to get really creative with things you're doing there, because I can't come in and be like, oh, we're going to start using, as I mentioned, we're going to measure the velocity on all your stuff you do, and it's like, well, can't do that situation.
Wow, that's hectic. That would have been a very busy gym. I was quite lucky, and most of the places and pretty much everywhere I worked actually had a really good gym setup. The best one that I've been in though was in Saudi. You can just imagine,
I can imagine
all the black box equipment and like all the woodways, the Bentley leather on the benches.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's different planet, mate. It's something else.
That is funny. Run me through as well your in camp, how that kind of changes. You mentioned out of camp it's a little more lax. In camp, I'm assuming it's going to be similar to what you mentioned before regarding how everything's set out, but maybe go say 4 to 6 weeks out, and then maybe what the kind of last 2 weeks of fight camp looks like, even the week of the fight. Are you doing anything with them then, or are you kind of just leaving that straight to the technical stuff?
I mean, it's different for each fighter, but typically 8 weeks out we'll go GPP for a couple of weeks, max strength for a couple of weeks, and then the last 2-3 weeks is like speed and power. Power then speed mostly. So that, like, fight week I would typically get them, like, as I said, like the medicine ball type stuff, the sort of low level metric type of stuff. I think is essentially like fight week, mate. It's so weird. It's a very weird week, because I think it's like you have to cut weight. I don't want to do this sort of thing. So it's kind of like, if I can get 15-20 minutes in doing something,
like almost like a power primer.
Sometimes, mate, they just want to talk shit and walk on a treadmill as well. And it's kind of like, I had a really good conversation with Ian Gary's strength coach about this. Like, they train every single day some form of S&C, and it's very like very, very micro dose.
Interesting.
They do 15 to 20 minutes a day. That's a lot of exposure to an athlete for me. Like a lot of repetitions of seeing them, and them having to put up with me having to put up with them. Sort of thing. So it's but I guess then again, there's many ways to skin a cat, and I think like with our tree, like, it's the whole thing about it is that there is so many ways and so many things that we can learn. Like, I'm 34, and there's shit I hear about all the time that I'm like, I've never learned this at uni. Like, you're
That's
20
podcast.
Yeah. But there was a kid that came in a few weeks ago, and he said something to me that like, I've never heard of this term before. It was like neural irradiation. I was like, I've never ever heard of that.
People are just making shit up now. That's why.
Yeah, maybe, but it's like he fooled me. um, it's a cool thing about it is that like we've all, I think, and maybe you'll be the same, but we all kind of not gotten too married to like the way we do things, but we do have our main meat and potatoes that we always can fall back on, that we know works, kind of thing. And I think moving out here with like the sort of high risk, high reward athletes that we are, I've kind of had to fall back on that a bit more often because I'm still learning, still trying to understand demands and still trying to see how we can get more out of them as well. So yeah, it's definitely something that is always evolving, us coaches.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's actually a really good way to end the podcast as well. Owen. Where can people find and follow you and keep up with what you're doing there?
Again?
Where can people find and follow you and keep up with what you're doing?
I use Instagram a bit, and I my page is just my Owen Scullion _com, and then I'm on LinkedIn as well. I use that quite a bit. Then it's just my name. You can also find me in Bangtao, Phuket, Thailand.
Nice. Well, if I ever make a trip out there, I'm gonna have to hit you up then and
always
pop
welcome,
by.
mate. You're always most welcome out here, my friend.
No, perfect. I appreciate that, and we'll keep in touch. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it, man.